Jujutsu Kaisen, probably the biggest shonen hit in the 2020s, is back with its season 2, and oh boy, talk about hype. The anime was already huge with just one season. I mean, it was the anime of the year 2020, and as expected, season 2 only made it bigger. You cannot use Twitter or any other social media platform without bumping into a JJK meme or some clips of its breathtaking animation. It literally is everywhere. Despite all of this, I personally was never a huge fan of the show. And no, this is not because I'm a wannabe edgelord and have developed an allergy to popular media. No, I love mainstream shows like Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, hell even Demon Slayer. There is absolutely nothing wrong with liking these mainstream shows. They are quote-unquote mainstream for a reason, right? But for some reason, JJK always felt mediocre to me. My major criticisms when I first watched this show 2 years ago that it seemed very basic. I remember thinking that the writing was too textbook and very safe. It was meticulously made to be popular. You know, a generic shonen with good and bad guys on either side, a primary trio consisting of a cheerful male lead, an emotionless wannabe Sigma, a semi-useful female character, and an overpowered handsome sensei. Yes, this is a JJK video. What do you mean I'm talking about Naruto? But after rewatching the show and looking back at it, I may have unknowingly fallen victim to a very narrow mentality. You see something popular that you didn't get into and think, well, then it must be bad, and people who like it are big dummies. There are popular things that I like, but no, the stuff that I like are popular because they are actually good. And shit like Jujutsu Kaisen is popular because its fans are yet to see their second anime. And I wouldn't say JJK is the second coming of Christ or a masterpiece like many people make it out to be. It still has a good share of flaws that I don't like. But yeah, I was so fucking wrong.
Gotta get it, homie, gotta move it. If you gonna do it, man, hope I never jug it. God, everybody just nobody really do it. None, I don't want this to feel here to me. I got the mean, if we hold you, no judge, I get the breaks, the walls.
After the death of the third Yuji's grandfather, Yuji gets involved in some rather strange events, and in a very desperate attempt to save his friends, Yuji eats a finger of a very dangerous cursed spirit named Sukuna, which allows Sukuna to reside in the body of Yuji, essentially using him as a vessel. And obviously, Yuji was the super rare human who could actually handle Sukuna's insane presence. Sukuna has 20 fingers scattered all across Japan, so Yuji and the Jujutsu sorcerer's task is to get all the fingers and feed them to Yuji. This makes him an invaluable asset, but also a threat that they wanna get rid of. This is basically the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. No deaths, no revenge, this is just a world where ghosts and ghost hunters coexist. Right off the bat, the plot is very overused. You're not gonna see any fresh concepts being explored in Jujutsu Kaisen. It's all the same stuff we have seen before being done just a little differently. Yes, just a little. Because even the execution or the approach JJK takes to all that overused narratives is something we have seen before. On top of that, there is absolutely no differentiating factor about JJK. Comment something about this anime that only this anime does. Yeah, there is absolutely nothing. And the biggest example of this is Yuji Itadori. He was the biggest turn-off in my first watch, and it mostly didn't change in the rewatch. All we know about him is all that we observed about him. That he likes girls with tall legs and a big ass, which is basically 90% of the male population. His goals/motivations come from a dead character who we know nothing about and had a screen time of an average opening song. There is no sort of past or backstory to him, and that is not even a problem, because anyways every show goes this route, so I expected Yuji might get a unique treatment by not building his character through a backstory but by showing us its effect in present time. That would be so interesting, and Gege definitely had the chance to do this. But no, what we get is a dumb character lacking any sort of depth or an emotional connection with the audience. The chance Gege had to make us care about him not through his past but the present was completely shoved away. His physical abilities are the only factor that differentiates him from just another guy to a protagonist. He is just a a strong dude as the show claims itself. However, there was a point where you could have got some good character development that didn't change him completely but at least caused some behavioral changes. That was the death of Junpei. I genuinely loved the bond these two guys made so quickly and how Junpei's mom behaved so casually with Itadori. She finally saw her son, who got bullied throughout his school life, make a genuine friend, and really this stuff was very heartwarming and I liked both Junpei and his mom. After this, the show takes a dark turn by killing Junpei's mom, which leads to Itadori going through some really disturbing experiences. He witnessed his friend die right in front of his eyes. He realized his goal of saving as many people as possible cannot be achieved without him killing some himself. And all these experiences completely fucked his mind, and we see this as he says something that completely defies his ideologies as a person. I will kill you. So after a person goes through all this in essentially 1 or 2 days, you expect him to at least tone down his dumbness and develop a sense of sincerity, right? Obviously, I don't expect him to become Yuji Jaeger, but at least some changes. And no, obviously we didn't get that. Right after the arc ends, he goes back to his usual self, the same old annoying dumb Joker. I cannot even describe how underwhelming this was. I mean, I just did, but you get the point. One thing that definitely made Itadori more enjoyable as a character is the dynamic he shares with Nobara and Megumi. Standalone, these three are not the most interesting characters in anime, hell, not even in JJK. But when they are together, oh boy are they fun to watch. You know, it's the classic shonen trio, goofy male and a female lead with a dull deuteragonist. I absolutely adore Nobara as a character. She's bitchy when she needs to be without seeming like an uncaring brat, and she does care about Megumi and Itadori, which is so cool to see. Rather than sidelining Itadori, she blends in with his comedic ways. Yes, I'm talking to you, Sakura, which results in some of the most funniest moments in the show. Also, Megumi is that one elder cousin you have who tries his hardest to look like he doesn't give a fuck, but deep down, yeah, he loves you. He doesn't have to try hard being Savage. Savage has to try hard being Megumi. Overall, if you look at these characters, they are not too interesting, but the bond they have is so funny and just genuinely good to see. Talking about characters, I think except for the protagonist, Gege wrote every other character almost perfectly. They are all so entertaining. Starting obviously with Gojo. Like everybody else, I am a Gojo fanboy. Yeah, call him a Kakashi ripoff, cause he really is. I mean, even if you're a fan, come on, they're not even trying to hide it. But I don't give a damn. He really is the charm of the series, and whenever he's on the screen, you're either laughing or extremely hyped up. I would be such a clown to say that I don't enjoy him, cause how can't you? The only real problem I have with him is that he's too overpowered. I don't mind that he's too powerful, but because he's so OP, Gege always excludes him whenever there's a big threat that requires high stakes, cause Gojo can kick anyone's ass. You can see this in the Goodwill event arc, where they made a huge dome that allows everyone inside except Gojo. And of course, my guy gets sealed for 3 real life years and 3 entire arcs in the manga. And you can't even blame Gege. He already killed majority of Gojo's screen time right when he decided to make him so strong. Another character I like is Mahito. He was my favorite character in the first half just cause it's almost like he knows he's a villain. We don't get any backstory that justifies his current actions. No, none of that shit. He's a horrible person just cause he wants to be one. The word creepy isn't enough to describe him. I mean, he runs experiments on humans to see how big and how small can he make them. To me, he gave off similar vibes as Season 1 and 2 Shigaraki. Both, at least for the time being, are not the main villains but have the potential to be one. Both are kinda immature and share similar character designs. Also, curse energy is explained to us multiple times throughout the first season, but the most interesting and unique explanation came from Mahito in his conversations with Junpei. He explained how cursed spirits are a collection of the cursed energy emitted by humans when they fear someone or something, which means famous monsters and ghost stories can potentially exist as spirits in this world. Not only that, but also natural disasters like volcanoes, tsunamis, and earthquakes, hence explaining us the existence of spirits like Jogo, because all humans collectively fear these disasters. I know this seems simple and pretty straightforward, but I genuinely couldn't look at cursed energy from this angle. Mahito gave such a different and interesting perspective on these curses, which I really liked. Also, while other curses originated from humans' fear towards inanimate stuff, Mahito was born from the hatred and fear people hold in their gut towards each other, and this simply makes him even more eerie. Not only Mahito, but the entire major antagonist group in JJK is awesome. No, you're not getting any complex villains with deep stories and an interesting past. If you look at JJK's villains, they are probably the most basic and generic in terms of writing. But as I said before, they are just so fun to watch. I mean, there are moments of them just chilling on the beach with the boys, which makes them feel like they are real people with real lives of their own, rather than basing their whole personalities on their goal or agenda. After every attack they make on the Jujutsu sorcerers, they have little meetings about how the plan went and what could be done differently. And in the entire genre of shonen, it's so rare to see villains just having simple conversations like real people, which makes us actually give a fuck about them. Moving on from the villains, I want to talk about a rather surprising theme presented in JJK. This might come as a surprise, but JJK gives a very positive message regarding the concept of gender roles through this conversation between Nobara and Momo. So the goodwill event is going on, all the characters are fighting each other, and the fight of these two takes a rather interesting turn. To give some context, Nobara hates Mai because she hates Maki, whom Nobara likes, and Momo hates Nobara because she hates Mai. So in defense of Mai, Momo gives some valid points on how it is way tougher to be a female sorcerer than a male, how women are expected to look beautiful and strong at the same time, and how men just have to be strong. But women are undervalued if they are also not cute, and at the same time they are shoved if they are only cute and not strong. The society expects absolute perfection from women, but according to her, perfection is easier when compared to what Mai has to go through. She's born in the Zenin clan, and being one of the 3 elite clans, perfection is the baseline. You already start your sorcerer life as a failure if you're not perfect in every aspect. On top of that, she has lived her entire life with her family, not showing even a shred of affection. And Nobara's reply to all this is, shut up. You think misfortune is a free pass to do anything? I despise her regardless of her upbringing, and I love Maki who endured the same upbringing. And the next line just hits hard. What makes us obligated to meet such perfection or such absurd demands? Is your entire life just a job? I don't give a damn about men this and women that. I love myself when I'm all dressed up looking pretty, and I love myself when I'm kicking ass. I am Kugisaki Nobara. Gosh, I fucking love this entire sequence. Nobara is such a freaking queen. Her personality is not about being a man or a woman, but about being Kugisaki Nobara. She is just what she wants to be. She does not give a fuck about satisfying stupid gender roles set by dead men. And considering that shonen is mostly consumed by young teenage boys and girls, I think this is a very touching message to send. You know that Squidward chair meme? Yeah, that's me with Jujutsu Kaisen if it was reversed. Season 2 took everything good about Season 1 and quadrupled it. The action set pieces we got in this season are way bigger and better than previously. Also, all of them stand out and master specific dynamics of animation. Itadori vs Choso comes with unique and awesome lighting. Sukuna vs Jogo gives us a sense of scale in this arc. Sukuna vs Mahoraga shows us how strong Sukuna can get by literally changing the entire atmosphere of the episode. All of these fights were gorgeous and sheer hype. I'm going to call it right now. When Crunchyroll announces their nominees for the best fights this year, it's all going to be fights from JJK Season 2. Honestly, keeping the animation aside, there are various other factors that simply elevate these fights. Like the idea to center this entire arc around Shibuya, a bustling city, rather than a barren wasteland. This simple decision by Gege leads to this arc being as good as it is, because now the fights are being fought in buildings and roads, with characters taking advantage of little things that are only possible because we are in a city, like water pipes and elevators. To better understand this, compare it to the Paranormal Liberation War in MHA, where the war is being fought in a decade-empty land. All the characters are duking it out by only using their abilities, but in JJK, we see them using their abilities while interacting with the environment around them. And this simple element adds a lot to this arc's battles. But you know how I mentioned Season 2 took everything about Season 1 and kept it? Well, that goes for its few negatives too. Some are admittedly nitpicks, but some are genuine problems. So firstly, why do everyone in the season die out of nowhere for no fucking reason? And no, I'm not against characters dying, but when they die so often with no real reason and lack any sort of attachment with the viewers, it seems like characters are dying for the sake of it. And it's not like I'm going very deep to call this for the sake of it. We even know the sake. So Itadori can get more trauma and fuck his mind even more. Like, why did Nanami had to die here? It makes no sense other than to add in Itadori's trauma. Nanami was my top 3 favorite character in season 1, and I was so excited to see how are they gonna explore his personality even more in the season. But no, he just died, and I felt absolutely nothing as he left the series. The same goes for Nobara, Jogo, and even Ijichi. Every episode someone is dying, and this seems cool to wannabe edgelords on Twitter, but all this is people dying before we get to know them and actually care when they die. I know this is done to add stakes in this arc, but it can also be done without everyone getting murdered. And this is where I would like to mention a huge problem that is the core reason of everything wrong with Shibuya. This arc takes place way before it should have been. Again, take the Paranormal Liberation War. This arc is often compared to Shibuya Incident because both are the big climax/payoff arcs of each series. The only difference being that MHA does this in season 6. Yes, we got 5 entire seasons worth of plot development and character writing that naturally adds stakes in this arc. The author has spent time to make us gradually connect and give a damn about these characters. Whereas in JJK, Itadori didn't even know Mahito, his big bad enemy's name. Yes, this is true. He didn't know Mahito's name. One of the biggest events of the Jujutsu world takes place in the very second season. In my opinion, we needed more arcs like Hidden Inventory, where we get our amazing fights but also spend time just getting to know more about the world and the characters. As it is right now, Shibuya Incident is a great arc in itself, which is only held back by the lack of build-up it got. We humans as a species contradict ourselves a lot. You remember the narrow mentality I mentioned at the beginning of the video? I think I once again fell victim to it. I know at this point this video seems like a semi-negative video, but that is because I was judging Jujutsu Kaisen for what I wanted it to be rather than what it is. Most negative points I mentioned hold true, but they were all about what JJK should have done rather than what it already did. I think I forget that I can't judge every anime or media in general with the same lens. Every show I watch can't be dark and mature that makes me think about it. I can't expect every show to give me meaning behind everything it does, especially not from a shonen. This genre's core formula is to provide hype and entertainment. They are supposed to be fun, and oh boy was it fun to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. Everything from its comedy to its characters. As I mentioned earlier, none of the characters are deep or have complex motivations. Like, Megumi just hates bad people, Nanami just wants everything to go according to his schedule, and Nobara, I don't even know, but still they are just entertaining characters. JJK uses a lot of popular shonen tropes but mastered almost all of them perfectly. All this combined with super hype inducing animation places Jujutsu Kaisen at a very high level in the modern shonen world. Yes, it has its flaws, a lot of things happen just for the sake of it, but all that is minute when compared to what this show gives you. I was watching Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 while being severely burnt out of anime. So even I was surprised when I binged this shit in 2 fucking days. I know people hate the idea of a new big 3, but if we are to make a big 3 of the 2020s, then Jujutsu Kaisen firmly has held a spot in there. Regardless of everything I said, I genuinely enjoyed this anime, and for fuck's sake, yeah, I will say it, you guys were right about Jujutsu Kaisen, and I will happily embrace my stupidity because I am so glad I was wrong.